Sandy Says Read, and welcome to the channel. Today we are going to do a book review and discussion of The Figure by J. Patrick Lemarr. Just make sure I get that up there where you can see the whole thing. Very nice. And this is going to be a book in our Indie Book Spotlight playlist. Let me begin by welcoming you to download your own Sandy Says Read bingo card over at the Bingo Baker website. I will put a link to this in the drop-down box below. You can download your own Bingo Baker card, and you can click off the little words as I say them throughout this review, because I'm probably going to say a few of those as we go through this discussion of The Figure. This is a horror story, a ghost story. You guys, I'm going to have a hard time getting through this video if I can't even say the word story. Oh, for goodness sakes. This is a ghost story and horror story packed into one. There you go. That's how I want to say it. Let's do the specs, as we do here at the channel. This is The Figure by J. Patrick Lemarr. It was published September 13th of 2024. It is published by Right Crowd Publishing, which is the author's imprint, which makes it fit firmly in the Indie Book Spotlight playlist category. Yeah, there you go. The illustration on the front cover. This illustration is by Jason Webb of Webheads Design. The story is 40 pages. It's written in third-person point of view, third-person omniscient, past tense. You know that is my jam, so I was pleased with that. Let me read for you the back cover. I'm having difficulty enunciating, so hopefully I can read this for you guys. All right, The Figure. Dawn Prescott had been a counselor at Camp Montclair Lake for 2 summers, and yet, despite the rumors and ghost stories about the place locals had dubbed Camp Nightmare Lake, she hadn't met a single vampire, swamp creature, werewolf, or dime store Freddy Krueger wannabe. It had been a running joke for the past 3 weeks. Whenever one of her 12-year-old charges had a nightmare that woke the whole cabin, or some terrified newbie counselor swore they saw a machete-wielding killer watching from the other side of the lake, Dawn would explain how boring the real world was. To be fair to Dawn, she believed that to be true. To be fair to Dawn, she believed that to be true before the 9-inch hunting blade pierced her heart and spilled blood down her lemon yellow "Camp is for Caring" t-shirt. 3 campers and 2 other counselors were already dead by then. Dawn had been jogging with her noise-canceling earbuds in when the shelter-in-place siren sounded. It would be the last mistake she would ever make. And those sirens that are going off, the shelter-in-place sirens, those are going off at the beginning of our story. We are thrust right into the action at the beginning of this story. Jeff doesn't waste any time. All right, now I did give you a Sandy synopsis, so let me read for you the Sandy synopsis. Camp Montclair Lake finally experiences the horror story such secluded camps are known for, and it's freeing for a most unlikely character, proving this gory ghost story a touching allegory. Right. Now, what I'm going to say next, the stuff we're going to talk about throughout this review, is going to give some amount of spoilers. I'm not going to spoil the whole thing. I'm not going to give away the final reveal, that kind of thing. I'm not going to do that to you guys. There are some twists. There's a big, huge twist. There are twists in this. It's a short story. There's going to be a twist. I'm not going to give everything away, but there is some amount of spoilering about to happen. I'm telling you that right now because I'm about to do one of them when I start reading from this next thing I'm going to read for you. Okay. So I want to say first that yes, I would recommend this as a good short story, horror story. If you're looking for something to go ahead and grab, pick up, and have for October, coming up spooky season at the end of this summer, great short story to do that with. And if you want to tune out and not watch the rest of this video because I'm about to spoil some things, I totally understand. There are plenty of videos around here with other indie authors and other indie stories we've covered where I have not spoiled things, and you can watch some of those. But I am going to start I'm going to dive into this, and some things I'm going to give away because I can't help it. In talking about some of the characters and some of the, especially early events in the story, I'm going to give some things away. It's only 40 pages. It is not a long story. So some of these things are going to be spoilery. Okay, ready? I'm diving in. Okay, so the allegory of this, we do have two main characters, Andy and Victoria. And we're going to go through a character list, but we'll go through that in a minute here. But Andy is sort of our main character, and he is a hero. He is a good guy, and he's doing his best to help his fellow camp counselors and the kids in this camp. He's doing his best. And I saw a great theme in this story, and I wanted to share it with you guys. The theme, the allegory, the thing we're going for in John 15:13. Greater love has no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. And I think that Jeff did just an awesome job of giving us this good hero character who does give his life for his friends. He does do everything in his power to help his friends, to save as many of his friends as he can. He's trying so hard, but he does lay down his life for his friends. He does have to die a hero's death. And that's not the twist in the story, you guys. There's more after his death, even though Andy is the hero. Andy is a hero. He is awesome. He does what he can for his friends. There's a twist after that. So I'm not giving away everything, but yeah, there we go. Okay, let's look at this and let's talk a little bit about Andy's heroism. Or do you want to go through the characters first? Should we do the characters first? Let's do that first. Okay. I have notes here. You think I could do this intelligently with notes, but okay. Our main characters. We have Andy Vale. I see him as our main character. He's definitely our hero. Then we have Victoria Adams. She is the camp counselor for cabin 11 in the story. And Victoria and Andy, they like one another. Okay. They are interested in one another. They would like to date, but they haven't had the courage to say that to one another until this figure shows up and is killing people. And they're like, you know what? Screw it. I think you're great. We should date. Yeah, it was done with much better wording than that. Jeff did a much better job than I just did. Okay, then we have our camp founder. His name is Tom Brannigan, and he is killed off page, but we learn of his death, and it's gruesome. We have a nearby farmhouse owner. There's Old Man Hitchens and his wife. And through part of the story, Andy thinks that, hey, if I could get these kids over to the farmhouse, if we could get over to Old Man Hitchens' farmhouse and use his phone, we would be safe there. I could get these kids to safety there. So there's this element in the story of, okay, here's a plan, here's a goal, here's what we're going to do. And at one point, we learned that that's not going to be a good plan. And it's like, darn, okay, let's try something else. All right, we have our camp counselors. Those are Dawn Prescott, whom we met on the back cover, and she's already dead. There's Petey Waters. He's also called Petey Pie, Peter. Okay, so Petey Waters. We don't get to speak with him. He's already dead. You guys, it's a horror story. There's Drew Jenkins. There's a camp counselor named Jess. There's a camp counselor named Candace Travers, and she and Victoria are BFFs. And then there's Craig Shively. So those are our counselors that we meet in the story. Then we have a litany of kids. There's a whole lot of kids in this story. We don't get to meet each and every one of them. Some of them do have a line or two. But you guys, we're going to talk for a second about how how Jeff is able to make us care about some of these, named and seen characters. We see a couple of these characters on the page and you are drawn to them. You care about them. You don't want them to die. It's cool how he is able to do that in just like a couple of sentences, a couple of paragraphs, and you're instantly like, oh, I don't want Kenny to die. Okay. So our kids are Sandy Klein. She's a character from the past. She's a gal who was there in the past. Carl Hoff, Amy Went. There's Timothy, Lizzie, Henry Astor, and they refer to him, they call him Casper. They've nicknamed him Casper because of the way he's able to like sneak in and out of rooms. There's a gal named Danny, and she is interested in a character named Jeremy, who's off in someone else's cabin. There's Lloyd Benton, Lisa Gardner, Glenn Hawkins, Sarah Till, Jasmine Pine, she's already dead when we stumble across Jasmine Pine, and that's a shame. I mean, we learned that she's this good gal, and she likes to give other characters nicknames that like stick with them throughout the time that they're at the camp. And then there's Kenny Plimpton, and we're going to take a look at Kenny because page 17 and 18, when we meet Kenny, we instantly like him. We instantly care. I mean, the sympathy for this character is instantly turned on in the way Jeff writes him. So here we have Kenny. He's up a tree, hiding. Let's see. The character who is seeing him is Andy. Andy is out trying to rescue people. All right. He turned to continue his backtracking when moonlight, glinting off an earring, helped him spot Kenny Plimpton in his perch in the buckeye tree. Kenny held his index finger to his lips. Andy motioned for him to come down, but the frightened boy shook his head. Instead, he scribbled something on a memo pad he pulled from his pocket. Andy recognized it as one of the memo pads they always handed out to campers when they checked into camp. It encouraged the children to keep a journal of their experiences and friendships in camp. Most of the kids ignored the notion, but not little Kenny. He was a tender kid with the heart of a poet. When the boy finished the message, he ripped it free of the pad, wadded it up, and dropped it down to the camp counselor, whose name he didn't recall. The ink was running down the page, but Andy could still make it out. It read, "Mr. Craig is behind the hydrangea bush." This poor kid is frightened to death. He's up a tree, but he has the heart of a poet. He kept the little memo pad that all the kids were given when they first came to camp. The other kids don't have this memo pad, only Kenny. And he writes down a message, and he has the presence of mind to wad it up so that it doesn't like float away on the breeze, wads it up and throws it down to the camp counselor, down to Andy. And Andy gets the message that one of the other counselors is hiding behind a bush. So not only is Kenny like this tender-hearted soul who has kept his memo pad and writes down poetry, journaling while he's there like he's supposed to do, he has the presence of mind to let Andy know where the other adult is and to do so in a manner that's not going to like float around on the breeze. I mean, he's a smart little kid up this tree. Yeah. I liked Kenny, and I was like, man, I hope he makes it. All right. Those are all of our characters that we have in the story. Now let's go back over here and talk about Andy as our hero. And let me tell you, I so appreciated the way Jeff gave Andy a lot of depth, gave him, I don't want to say he was on a character arc, because Andy was good throughout. Andy was faced with temptations. And like a good Trinitarian, Jeff gave him 3 temptations. Our first is on page 6. On page 6, we have Andy is talking to one of the other counselors, Drew. They're out in, they're out. It's dark. It's nighttime. It's been raining. The sirens are going off, and they're scared. And Drew is telling him about the Hitchens place. That farm is old, Andy said. They've got a landline. I'm sure of it. Go. I'm going to find the others. Don't be a hero, man, Drew said. Come with us. No, I need to find Victoria. Drew nodded solemnly. Good luck, bro. Watch your 6. Yeah, you too. He watched them shrink back into the bushes, then turned back toward the red path, jogging as fast as he could. So here is the first temptation that Andy had to leave the kids that he had locked into a pantry for safety. He could just leave them. He could just run away from these pressures and the fear and the potential for death. I mean, he could leave that behind if he went with Drew and the kids that Drew is protecting. He could go with them. And he decided, no, he's not going to take the easy way out. He's not going to go, safety in numbers. He's not going to do that. He's going to find Victoria, the girl that he likes. He's going to find her. And he's going to find a way to help the kids that he has protected, that he has locked away for that protection. He's going to He's not going to abandon them. I like that. That was temptation number 1. All right, then on page 19, we have another temptation. Oh, there is this inner voice that does come into play later, but there's this inner voice that is bugging Andy. Run, something inside him urged. Forget them all and run. I need to find Victoria, he told Craig. You should get Kenny out of here. Hell no, that thing will find us, Craig said. You run that risk staying here, Andy argued. The fear he found in Craig's eyes softened his voice as he added, but I understand. Stay safe. I'll come back for you once I find Victoria and the others. So there is something inside Andy telling him, get out of here, man, run away. And he won't do it. He won't leave. He won't abandon these people to their fates. Further down the page, we get his third and final temptation. Third temptation is every instinct he had pleaded with him to flee. But Andy continued to suppress the panic and fear, pushing it down into a little box somewhere in the back of his mind. 3 things, and only 3 things, occupied his thoughts: Victoria, the kids, and killing the figure. Those were the 3 temptations that Andy experienced while he's out there in the dark, trying to find Victoria and trying to help, his basically his fellow counselors and the kids stay safe. Those are the three times that something or someone was urging him to get out of there. Something was telling him, you should not stay here. You can get out. You can save yourself. Go. And he refused. He refused. He stayed to be the hero. Now, we get a hint of Andy's inner struggle on pages 15 and 17. So let me go there and show you that. On page 15, the figure is now moving toward Andy, right? But something inside him, some instinct Andy was not consciously aware of, broke through his fear for the young woman he had grown so fond of and prompted his legs to run. Okay, so he's getting away from this thing. And on page 17, cutting a serpentine path back toward cabin 12, Andy's every instinct was to get back to the kids he had locked in the mess hall pantry and head straight for the Hitchens farm. But he wouldn't leave Victoria. So we're basically getting a hint of Andy's inner struggle. Something is speaking to him. Something is messing with him. Something is saying, you need to get out of here. And he's fighting against it. He's saying, no, I'm going to stay and I'm going to take care of my friends. I'm going to find Victoria. I'm going to help her. Okay, now, obviously, I've enjoyed the story. There's a lot about it that I enjoyed, that I found good. I do want to go over some of the pros and some of the cons, because, in these reviews, we do honest reviews here. We talk about the goods and the not so greats. There were a couple of things in the story that did take me out of the story as I was reading it. It's a 40-page story. And we went over a really long character list. Now, most of those characters are introduced to us in the first couple of sections, and not all of them factor into the whole narrative. I mean, I listed off all those kids. Those kids don't really have more than a line or 2 that they need to say. They are there to prop up and show us the main characters. They're there to show us Andy's strength and Andy's his inner turmoil. I think we're seeing the inner struggle that he has because we saw these kids, because we saw he wants to protect them. So there were a lot of named characters, but I think Jeff didn't have any choice but to name these characters. It's a summer camp. There's going to be a lot of kids there. It's not going to be a handful of kids. It's going to be a lot of kids. Each camp counselor is responsible for a number of kids. It would have been weird to say, girl A or the girl with brown hair. It would have been strange. So they had to have names. I get that. I understand it. There was a lot of names in the beginning. And I was wondering, okay, are any of these going to be important later? And they weren't really important later. We didn't really need to track every one of them. And that was actually fine. Fine. I was actually glad I didn't have to track all those kids. Yeah. Okay. So one of the cons, though, was that Victoria and Candace, when we got to them and I started trying to differentiate between the two of them, I was having a little bit of difficulty. And I think that's because there were so many named characters for me to track at the beginning, so many characters for me to say, oh, okay, who is this one now? And it was just at the beginning, it was difficult for me to remember Victoria was the important one. Victoria was the one that Andy was interested in, and Andy's the one Victoria was interested in. But Victoria and Candy, they're best friends. They're BFFs. So they were, they're at the same cabin. They're sheltering in place together. They each have their set of kids together there in that cabin. Yeah. So there we go. I think the reason that stood out to me is because Victoria was so important. I needed to know who she was. And because it was confusing at first, I was frustrated with myself for not recognizing who she was. And I had to go back and figure it out. I did, and I did figure it out, and then it was fine. Let's see. I did mention when we looked at Kenny, this is a pro. When we looked at Kenny, we saw how easily Jeff made us care about the characters. He is able to, the author is able to give us just a very quick synopsis of a character, just able to paint a quick picture, a quick sketch, as you were, of a character so you understand who this character is, the basic points we need to know about this character, and then moving on. He's able to do that very easily and quickly with some of these characters, with Kenny. We read that just a little bit ago. Now, on page 25, we do learn about another character. Let me go there. This is our camp founder, Tom Brannigan. Is that right? Let me see. Brannigan. Okay, now Victoria has gotten into the main office. She has a key. There's only two people who have a key to the main office. Victoria is one of them. She's gotten in there because there is a weapon in Brannigan's drawer in the den, or the main office, where there is a gun. So she can get that thing out, and she can hopefully defend the camp against this figure. So she's going in there. For a moment, she wondered if Brannigan's living quarters above the office might contain a satellite phone or even an old school ham radio. Given Brannigan's greasy demeanor and the pervy way he always looked at Candy, she was pretty sure she didn't want to dig through his belongings. The gun was easy. She knew right where he kept it. The bottom right drawer had a false bottom. Brannigan always joked that he had kept his Coke stash there in the 80s. Now it was home to a half-empty flask of cheap whiskey, a nearly full carton of no-filter cigarettes, Brannigan's 9mm pistol, and the loaded magazine you could hear rattling around every time he opened the drawer. Okay, now you just pictured Brannigan. You know what he looks like from this little 2 paragraphs, and we know what he looks like. We know what he's like, and I'm thinking, why is he the founder of this camp? Why are people sending their kids to this guy's camp? What's going on? Ew. That went through my mind. Like, this guy should not have kids under his control. But that's not what this story is about. That's not part of this story. And Victoria is getting the weapon. She's putting the she's putting the magazine into it so that she can take care of business. 23. And I will show you guys. We have at the scene breaks, we have a machete, an illustration of a machete at each of the scene breaks. And I had figured by the time we get here, I understood that those scene breaks were a reset. We were with a character. We were in like Andy's point of view. And when we got to one of those machetes, we switched to someone else's point of view. Or we went to another point in time, still that same night. This is all taking place on one night. But when on page 23, we had a reset, and it took me several paragraphs to figure out, oh, wait, we went back in time during this night. We're in Victoria's point of view now. We've gone back in time. It just took me a few paragraphs to go, wait a minute. This is totally inconsistent. Why doesn't she know this? This just happened. Well, this just happened in the former scene. Now we're in a different scene, but this scene is from the past in the same night. This is from like 30 minutes ago instead of current. That happened, and I was frustrated with myself because I knew better. That's all that's in the con column. It worked. The story worked just fine. Having those like minute flashbacks where we're in someone else's point of view, and now we're going back to where, you know, this evening started this way for this character. This evening started this way for this character. It's a very good device. It's just in this instance, the device only went back like 30 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever. Okay. And so I didn't catch it. I could also be an idiot. Okay. All right. There we go. Now let's go back to the prose column. And I wrote, the horror is horror and horrifying. Very well done. Jeff pulls no punches. And I wrote here, characters die. He pulls no punches. Characters, our hero dies. And then there's more twists that come after the hero dies, because the hero, like I read before, he lays down his life for his friends. Then there's still more horror to come and more things to happen. Okay. The Deus Ex Machina is believable. It's written in a way that makes you go, oh my God, this is amazing. Okay. It is believable and it's good. I'm reminded of, settle in for a second here, you guys. I'm reminded of when Kenneth Branagh's Frankenstein came out of the theaters. I went to the theaters to see that, and there was a woman in the audience who became frustrated at one point because I don't think she understood the story. I don't think she understood what was going to happen in that movie because, you know, characters die. And there was a point in the movie where that woman in the audience went, I hate this. And yeah, the characters die. And I thought to myself at that time, like, why did you sign up for this if you weren't going to like it? Why did you come here if you weren't going to like? Well, it was just her experience of it, right? Characters die in Frankenstein, and it's gruesome, and it gets that visceral reaction from people. Characters die in this horror story, and it is gruesome, and it gets a visceral reaction from you. I mean, when Andy dies, I went, oh, you're kidding. That reaction was like from my gut, okay? And well done on Jeff's part to get that reaction out of me. When other things happened after that moment, when the twists happened, I was like, oh my gosh. And those things happening, kudos to Jeff for getting those reactions out of me. Just nicely done. Yes. Okay. It's gothic, it's horror, it's marketing brilliance. This story is one in the Nevermore universe that Jeff has created. And if you have been here at the channel for any length of time, you know that we have covered a few of the other short story compilations that Jeff has put together. I will put links to those videos in the drop-down box below so that you can check those out if you feel so inclined. But there are other short stories and other compendiums that Jeff has put together that include characters in the Nevermore series. And this is in that realm. Makes sense? Yeah. So if you were to pick up this short story, it is its own fully encapsulated short story. It is a horror story on its own. You can read it on its own and enjoy it on its own, and it's done. Here it is. But it is within that realm. And after reading it, if you're so inclined, you would want to know more about that realm, which is brilliant on Jeff's part. Now after reading this, you can go and check out the rest of that realm. Yeah, well done. Okay, so thumbs up for horror and gruesomeness and gory things and a magical figure. I want to welcome you guys to subscribe to this channel here for more indie book spotlights throughout the year. I had considered saving this and sharing it with you guys during the month of October because of the horror nature of it, but we need to talk about indie books all the time. So there we go. That's it. Thumbs up for indie books, for horror stories. Yay. Thank you so much for tuning in.